A couple weeks ago, I went on a Tinder date with a guy who I knew from high school. We were mutual acquaintances before this, and when we matched on Tinder, we agreed to meet up. I picked him up at 7 and we went and got some food. After that, we drove to some secluded place so we could talk with extra privacy. Leave it up to the imagination. Anyway, around 10:30, he starts to complain about his stomach hurting. I ask him if he wants to leave and he says no and kind of blows it off for a little bit. Around 11, he says he really needs to use the bathroom. I wasn't sure what to do because we were in a very secluded area and I wasn't familiar with. He tells me that there is a gas station about 15 minutes away from us and asks me to step on it. I leave and drive as fast as I can, but it's very dark and I don't know my way around, and he is becoming more frantic, visibly sweating, breathing heavy. At one point, I ask if I should pull over because going in the woods is better than nothing, but he swears he can make it. Unfortunately, he misses telling me to take a turn somewhere and we get lost and I have to turn around, and it's still probably like 10 more minutes according to him. Then he gets very pale and yells at me to pull over, and I stop as fast as I can. But when I do, he doesn't get out of the car. He just sits very resigned. At this point, I understood it was too late. We both sat there in silence for a little bit. I really wasn't sure what to say to make him feel better, and I was also feeling a little sick from the whole thing, the smell. Eventually, I just offered to take him home and tried to act nonchalant. He agreed, so I drove us home. He also tells me that he will reimburse me for getting my car cleaned. I felt bad because of course it wasn't his fault. Accidents happen, so I offered to split the cost 50-50 and we never talk about it again. I also told him if he wants, I'd like to try a second date since this one turned out, so yeah. He thanked me and we parted ways. I got my car detailed and sent him a text letting him know everything went well, but I didn't get a response. I waited for another week and tried texting him again like, hey, did you see my text? And again, he didn't respond. I went on Tinder to try and message him there, but I saw he had unmatched me, so it was pretty clear that he had ghosted me. So, my boyfriend and I have been dating for 7 months now. We usually eat takeout if you want to get something to eat. However, I recently was promoted, so we went to eat at a very nice Italian restaurant to celebrate, like one with an enforced dress code. My boyfriend is not the nicest of eaters, which can be kind of gross, but I deal with it. However, I didn't realize he had no table manners. At the restaurant, after we were served our first appetizer, a beautifully plated bruschetta dish, he looked at me and jokingly asked me if I would be upset if he enjoyed his meal the same way he would at home. I told him that we were at a nice restaurant and there were other customers around. He didn't say anything, but instead started digging into the bruschetta with his hands, ignoring the serving fork, getting sauce all over his fingers. I let this go. However, when the pasta came out, he smirked at me and ate like he hadn't eaten in a week. He dropped his fork and started picking up pieces of chicken and noodles with his fingers, getting sauce everywhere. The tablecloth, his hands, his clothes and face. He didn't miss the opportunity to loudly burp after he had finished, destroying his side of the table. The table next to us was astonished. My waiter even asked him if he was okay. Other customers were staring. He also put his feet up on the chair next to us, blocking the aisle. I had no idea what to do. I didn't want to make even more of a scene, so I just asked for the check, which I paid, and left really embarrassed. On the way home, I told him how embarrassed I was, and he just said it was my fault for not letting him enjoy the meal as he pleased, and that since we were paying customers, the other guests had no business judging us. I was walking to school in middle school, and this lady with a car pulled over next to me and called me Linda. That's not my name, but was close enough. I looked up. She apologized and explained she thought I was her grandkid. Then she offered me a ride to school, except that I was already standing on the school grounds. I had a half-block walk before I needed to turn to walk into the building. When I said no, she tried to demand I get into the car. I said no thanks and took off running. It occurred to me much later that she probably had no intention of dropping me off at school. I was working on a radio system in the local water tower of a pretty remote outback town. It was a beautiful late spring day in October when I got there, but after about 2 hours, the bird noises stopped. The breeze stopped. I took my equipment out of standby and flagged it as a live test. Because I had the weirdest feeling, I didn't have time to fully test it and went outside to sit in the car. About 90 seconds later, there was a direct lightning strike on the tower I just left. It was the highest point in 200 kilometers. It was literally the loudest thing I've ever heard, ever. Late at night, I was sitting in my car waiting for my boyfriend to finish his shift. A guy walks past and we make eye contact. I feel this sense of danger but figure I'm overreacting. A few minutes pass and the fear won't go away. I finally decide to move my car away from the edge of the parking lot to the front of the restaurant in the customer parking area. I start up my car and just as I'm putting it into drive, the guy rushes out from behind and tries to yank open my door. Pulling on it really hard. I hit the gas and he trails me for a second, then hits my window with a rock. I keep going and he throws the rock at me, then runs away. I was shaking so badly I could barely steer. Pretty sure he was sneaking up on me just as I decided to start my engine.
Am I the arsehole for believing the housekeeper over my son? We hired a housekeeper that comes over several times a week to get the house clean since my husband and I are busy with work. We have 2 kids, Jeremy 16 and Raya 14. Now Jeremy is a jokester. He likes pulling pranks on everyone in the house, and that included the housekeeper. He did stuff like throw her purse, hide her wallet and got punished for it and then told not to do it again, because our housekeeper almost quit and we didn't want that. Now onto the situation. Some days ago, I got a call from Jeremy while he was having friends over telling me he saw the housekeeper sneak some of my jewelry into her purse and asked me to come home immediately. I freaked out and tried to call my husband, but he didn't pick up. I went home and was mad. I talked to the housekeeper and she denied putting anything in her purse. I demanded to see her purse and my jewelry was there. The housekeeper started swearing on her children that she didn't put it in there and had no idea how it got there. I believed her and figured Jeremy had something to do with it given his history. I switched my attention towards him and had him explain to me exactly how he saw our housekeeper do it. He told me that he saw, but a friend of his came forward and said he saw Jeremy put the jewelry inside the lady's purse and was trying to get her in trouble. Jeremy yelled at his friend and told me it was one of his pranks, but I was furious. I kicked the rest of his friends who covered for him out and I punished him hard and apologized to the housekeeper. My husband reacted unexpectedly after he heard and said I was wrong for choosing to believe the housekeeper over our son, even though there was a witness, but he said his friend must have said this to get him in trouble or because the housekeeper paid him to side with her, which was shockingly absurd of him to say. He said I was not being a good mother, and my first instinct is always to believe my son in whatever he says and never question him in front of his friends like that. I'm confused. Did I mess up? Am I the arsehole for hiding embarrassing notes in my house as a joke because I know my fiance's mum snoops? I bought a house 7 years ago and I met my fiance, Al, 4 years ago. This year he moved in. We're talking about making it a home for both of us. But as for now, he hasn't moved much stuff in. Right now, 95% of the stuff and furniture in the house is mine. When his mum comes over, she's kind of a snoop. He was used to that, but when she comes to our house, it's so uncomfortable because she's just going through my shit. When I am bothered, she's like, I was just helping with chores, etc. He says I should just let her because she has a lot of nervous energy. One thing she snooped on was actually embarrassing. In my home office, I had a little affirmation post-it note on my monitor saying, I am smart, I am skilled, I am deserving of great things. It was a silly thing my therapist recommended to get me in a confident mindset before an interview. Anyway, she made a comment about my ego, but as a joke I decided to do it again. Had my best friend over and we got wine drunk and wrote a bunch of affirmations to hide. Some were, in the medicine cabinet, my teeth will regrow. I am shark-like and powerful. Kitchen drawers. I know where to spoon, but I also know where to fork. I am sexy and self-assured. Work desk. I will not just fuck my way to the top of the company. I will fuck my way to the top of the world. Amazing. Walk-in closet. I am beautiful with clothes and without, especially without. My boobs are legendary. There were a bunch more. I wish we heard him. And my friend and I had a hilarious time writing them. Next time my mother-in-law came over, she saw a few, and she didn't acknowledge them to me even though she definitely started acting a little weird about me. I went to run some errands, and when I was out, she confronted Al about the notes and was trying to tell him that I seemed unstable, egotistical, and moving in was a bad idea. She showed him the notes and he didn't really know what to make of it. He asked me and I said they were just some silly private notes to boost my self-confidence and make myself laugh. How had she gotten them? Had she been going through my things? He said she was just tidying and saw them and they were real weird. I was like, have you met me? You should know how weird I am. Anyway, if you don't want your mum seeing my weird shit, you've got to stop letting her go through my shit. He asked if I left them on purpose to annoy her, and I admitted that was kind of the joke, but I also have other weird or private shit, so what I said about her needing to stop snooping if she didn't want to find her weird crap was still for real. He said I was making stuff hard for him. His mum was really protective and adjusting to him moving in with a girlfriend for the first time, and I was agitating her on purpose and making her think I wouldn't be a good partner, when he wanted her to have the opposite impression of me. Am I the arsehole for the note prank